Hello and welcome. I'm joined once again by Brizer, and this is going to be a relatively short stream. We're going to discuss a 2-minute video clip we saw today, and that is in relation to a stabbing frenzy which took place in Mannheim, Germany. So, Brizer, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine, thanks, Betwixt. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad.
Yeah.
All right. I think we'll start off. I might just go through what I saw in the clip. Obviously, if we put it up here, this stream will be taken down faster than you can say hollow hoax. So I'll just go through what I saw, and then Brizer, if there was anything that caught your eye, something I missed, or if I make an error, jump in, whatever, and then we might just at the very end get into the symbolism of it. So I'll start off by saying that in the 2-minute clip I saw, it looks like a really boring live stream. You've just got these very polite looking elderly people. It looks like they're getting information. It's some sort of, I don't know, some sort of exhibition or conference on the street in a square. It looks like they're just handing out leaflets or it's information. And it's very hard to find out what was going on. You know, what was this event that was taking place? Because most of the media, either they don't disclose that, or you have to scroll down a lot to get to that. Anyway, as I say, it starts off very boring, and suddenly there's commotion, and whoever's filming, they get really close up to the action. I was thinking, you know, when I watched it the first time, and then I was thinking back, did they use the zoom on the camera? But I don't think so. I think they walked right up to where the action was taking place. And yeah, there's some sort of commotion, and there's a guy with a knife, and he's on the ground. He's in a tussle with another man. And then these two men in blue coats, they approach the stabber and they stand over him. And it looks like they're going to take control of the situation. And I was thinking, you know, there was a lot that the people around could have picked up, you know, metal bars and stuff like that. They could have picked up, but it didn't seem to dawn on anyone that they could pick up something, you know, a long piece of metal or whatever. So yeah, these two guys went over and they stood over the stabber, and it looked like they were going to disarm him. But then the stabber, he springs to his feet, and I think he goes for the original guy that he was tussling with. And one of the guys in the blue jackets, he seems to fall back. I don't think he was touched, but he falls back. And yeah, there's another tussle. The stabber is on the ground again. A guy in a dark jacket comes over. He stands over the stabber, and it looks like he's holding him in check. And we can now see there are several people standing around. It looks like this thing is finally coming to an end, but no. The stabber on his back manages to get back up, and he has the blade in his hand, and he stabs another guy. Now, there are police in the background. You can see at this point there are police in the background. Two female cops and 2 male cops, one of whom looks, I would say, of a Middle Eastern persuasion. He looks very swarthy, and he has his gun drawn. Now, the stabber still manages to stab a policeman. Now, the policeman is knelt over some guy. It's like the policeman is trying to mobilize a guy who's not stabbing anyone. And the stabber then stabs the policeman. I think he stabs him in the shoulder or something like that. He gets, as far as I know, he gets another stab at that cop just as he is shot. And then a blonde cop comes over, and she leans over the stabber once he's been mobilized. And you can then see, because the camera pans, and there are a minimum 20 cops in the vicinity, 20 cops. And the women cops are all screaming, and they seem hysterical. And you wonder, you know, how could this go on for? Because I think it was something like 90 seconds, which is a long time for something like this to go on, where you've got one guy with a knife, just stabbing anyone who comes close to him. So, Brizer, I'll pass it over to you. If there's anything you want to add or something you might have seen, go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about this incident until you told me about it this afternoon. And I said I went looking for it to see what I could read up on it. I found a few things, all right, but again, like you said, they were quite vague. It looked like to me that there was a kind of one of the parties in Germany, because of the elections that are coming up, the European elections, were having a kind of a rally or something. And they did mention in one of the articles that it was the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland. It might have been them, but that wasn't clear either. And so it looks like they were preparing to get going, and they were going to have some speakers, and they had a bit of a stall there where they had, as you said, flyers and things to hand out. And it was just, it looked very calm and peaceful. As I said, it was just a couple of elderly people there that I could see just standing there, kind of just looking at some of the leaflets and whatever. And then all of a sudden, the guy who had the camera, who was kind of filming, I think, obviously heard a commotion going on further on, just further from the stall where they had all the microphones and the kind of a bit of a stage maybe set up. And there was this guy who was just randomly attacking people with looks like a knife. Now, I couldn't make out to quite what this guy was, or where was he German, or was he looked kind of Islamic because he had a beard, and he kind of looked a bit duskier than the typical German, but it wasn't very clear what what ethnicity this guy was. Now again, it said in the news article that I read that the attacker was he was an anti-racist, one of these guys, and that it was going to be an anti-Islamic kind of rally in the town, in the city of Mannheim, and so this guy was going to cause trouble. So so he started attacking some people who were setting up the microphones. I think that's what it looked like to me. And then a couple of guys that were kind of security, maybe, who were dressed in a kind of blue tops, like blue jackets, kind of came running around and tried to immobilize this guy. But it kind of broke out. The guy started slashing out with his knife. I'm not sure if that guy got stabbed, the first guy in the blue coat, but he was definitely trying to stop him from doing what he was doing. And he might have got it slashed. You know what I mean? He might have been injured there. But again, it was hard to tell. But he was trying to obviously stop the guy, and then it ran out from where the microphones are set up into the main square. And I think another fella came out again, as you said, who tried to. But he didn't look like part of the security. He looked like just probably someone else who was there to try and diffuse the situation as well. And I think they got the guy in the blue top got the attacker down on the ground and seemed to have the situation controlled. But then the cops came in, and things got a bit kind of. I think that's where the situation got actually worse, and the attacker was able to break free, and because what was happening was, but there was another security guy, wasn't he? He was being held down by a cop. I think the cops tend to go for the security guy rather than go for the attacker. And I think there was one cop who got one of the security guys down on the ground, and the attacker got up and stabbed the cop, by the looks of it. And you could actually kind of see that in the video. I think he got stabbed in the leg. And then it was at that point when the attacker was shot. I don't think he was killed, he was injured. And then the next thing, as I said, there was just a swarm of about 20, 30 cops just there. Okay, they obviously immobilized the attacker. He was obviously injured, so he couldn't do anything now. But they were handcuffing, by the looks of the two guys who were actually trying to defuse the situation. And this, I mean, okay, you can kind of say that maybe it wasn't clear as to what was really going on here. Was this just a big fight that just happened to break out? But I think if you were the cops, you were obviously, there was obviously a big police presence here at this, because it was a big rally against immigration. So there's obviously going to be a big police presence at these events. There normally is. So they obviously knew who were organizing it and who the security detail were and all that. So why they were arresting them is, again, beyond me in a way, because all I could see that they were just defending themselves and actually trying to defuse the situation. And so, yeah, that's all I could kind of make out of the whole thing. And again, it just looked like, as I say, just kind of this random attack by this kind of guy who was just kind of lashing out at everybody, and he didn't care who he stabbed, to be quite honest. And as I think he probably did stab one of the security guys, and he did stab a cop, from what I think that's what happened there. And so, yeah, I think we're going to see more of this as well as the year progresses, because of these European elections and other, the whole Trump thing. I know there's all a big story about Trump now as well, but everything is, politics is now moving now towards the right. People are fed up with the immigration stuff now. And I think we could see a backlash from migrants in our countries. And their favorite weapon of choice basically is a knife. And I think we could see more and more of these now in the coming months. Back to you.
Yeah. They really don't want to go back to where they came from, because they know they come from shithole countries.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that you could convince them, you promote it to them to go back to their countries, they're not going to be convinced. Where else would they have it so easy?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll mention a few things. By the way, the live chat, as far as I know, the live chat isn't working, because just before Brizer and I came on, I tried to just put a message in the live chat telling people we'd be, coming on in a few minutes, and YouTube rejected my comment. And they said, YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's spam. And all I said was, we'll be ready in 2 minutes. And that was from the StreamYard end. I tried to then put a comment into YouTube itself in the tab, and it didn't appear. So I don't know if it's been disabled. Yeah, I kept using the word mobilized instead of immobilized or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite ironic, because actually a lot of the people there actually helped the stabber continue his frenzy. They didn't disarm him, and they seemed to be almost pulling him up. And the cops definitely helped to mobilize him for a bit there. Yeah. I said to you when we were in touch earlier that it was reminiscent of our movie review of Demolition Man, where you have that guy Phoenix, and he's at an ATM machine, something like that, and he's surrounded by cops, and the cops really don't know how to handle him. And that was the impression I got of the German cops and the German people as well. They really didn't know how to handle this guy with a knife. As I said at the start, there were so many things they could have picked up there, but nobody picked up anything off the ground to try and, so that's programming. And I think as well with the cops, like half of the cops were women. I don't think women should be cops, and they certainly shouldn't be out on the street. No woman took down that guy. The guy who actually, I think, shot him was the guy who looks like a minority cop. He's the one who took him down. As I say, you've all these cops, and it goes on for 90 seconds, and people are stabbed left, right, and center. So, yeah, it's very It's very strange, but it must be in the training as well. You know, the cops go through all that diversity training. So when they see a guy with a knife and he looks like he's an Arab, they're probably thinking, if I shoot this guy, you know, I could lose my job, could be demoted.
Oh yeah.
I could go to prison. Because, you know, these minorities are higher up the totem pole. So that definitely comes into it. I'm sure if the guy with the knife had blonde hair and blue eyes, I don't think he would have been able to stab so many people. I think he would have been taken out very quickly. His name hasn't been released as of yet, as far as I know. And this comes on foot of, you know, these young Germans, these youngsters who sang a song, and, you know, their names, where they study, where they work, that's all over the internet now, you know, so they were doxxed completely. Yeah. Anything to add, Brizer, before we finish up this chat?
Yeah. As you said, when you looked around the square, as you said, there was a lot of people, you know, were walking up the street. It was a kind of a square in the middle of the city, obviously, and there was a busy kind of street behind it. And people obviously didn't know what was going on at first, but then they all just stopped and looked, and they didn't really react too well, you know. Now, I suppose in a situation like that, it can be kind of confusing, really, because you don't know whether it's just a brawl or whether it's something more serious. But there were things that could be used there to kind of do, you know, like a microphone stand, for example. There was a few microphone stands set up, you know, get one of them and give a man a whack over the head with one of those. He'd feel it. But yeah, the cops kind of looked a bit all over the place. They didn't they didn't seem to know what they were actually kind of doing, and they you know, maybe again in the moment, you know, it's a difficult one to maybe decide what actually is going on here and who's attacking who. But they did get the attacker. They did shoot him. I think they shot him in the leg or something. So they disabled him. But I don't know why they handcuffed. They really seemed to manhandle the two guys who were actually trying to stop it. You know, the only two guys who did actually try to stop it. So, and it didn't look at that point either that you know, at the beginning of the video, that didn't look like there was that many people there even at the start. It looked like the whole thing was just setting up, and they were just putting up all the as you say, a stall and the microphones and whatever, and they were, you know, it was probably going to start in about a half an hour's time or something like that. It looked like it was just preparing. So again, it's interesting to know whether this guy who attacked them, was he specifically going for somebody in particular, or was he just willing to stab anybody? But I think once the guy in the blue jacket, who looked like he was in security, because there was a couple of them wearing blue tops, you know, when he started going for him, he lashed out at anybody, and as I said, it seemed to carry on for, you know, I said about a minute before the cops kind of came in and intervened, and the cops looked, they didn't know quite exactly what they were doing, and they certainly did shoot the guy, the attacker. And again, it's hard to know exactly who this attacker was, where he was from. He didn't look German, that's all I'll say, but he could be. I didn't get a good look at him. And in the reports that I've read, the attacker, they said he was just unknown, and they always put that in, you know, particularly if it's someone from a third world country or whatever. They always say some unknown assailant or something like that, but they never actually give a name or where he may be from, you know. And, so it's a typical type of, we've seen this before, and as I said, I think it's something that we could see again, particularly at protests and rallies and demonstrations and things like that, you know. So I kind of caution people to be on their guard at these events, and maybe it's being put out there to kind of say, well, this is what could happen if you go to one of these events, you know. But there is that possibility of some lunatic just arriving up. He could be a kind of a Manchurian candidate put in there deliberately to cause problems, you know. We never know. It's kind of like a wag the dog type scenario could be involved here too. It's but it's obviously there. It's put there. Just it's whether it's set up like that way or it's an actual random event. The same situation applies because it's just going to instill a lot of fear into people and I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a massive ramping up of the fear programming in the coming months, particularly regarding migration, because it's got out of hand so much now in Europe in particular, and in Ireland as well. It's people have just had it up to here. I mean, that's what everyone is talking about now, right? They go out talking to people. The old people, the young people, they're all talking about it now. So they're fed up. So I think there could be a backlash coming in the next few months. So be careful, as I said. Yeah.
I think the Israeli-Palestine conflict, it also has wider implications, and there are a lot of migrants who don't particularly like the Zionists, and these are the ones who can very suddenly be deported. It's like magic. They do something that goes against the tribe, and suddenly they're sent back to North Africa or wherever. But yeah, I'll go through just what I've seen here. This was an article from DW.com, and as far as I know, that's a German outlet, a media outlet. And the headline was "Knife Attack in Mannheim, Suspect Shot." Now that's actually, you might think that's not a very decent title, but that's one of the best I've seen from mainstream media. And it says that, let me see, where was it? Yeah. It said, outspoken Islam critic Mikhail Sturzenberger was due to speak at the event, which is part of his Open Eyes tour. His organization, Pax Europa, said the 59-year-old Sturzenberger was among those injured. And then you get the usual crap. It says Mannheim Mayor Christian Sprecht said he was speechless. There you go, speechless after the attack. The right-leaning mayor urged the people not to speculate about the motives behind the attack before investigators published their findings. And Chancellor Schulz says attackers should be punished severely. So there you go. But yeah, I'll go through. When I did a Google search, I have 5 headlines here. All right. I typed in Mannheim stabbing, right? And I got this. BBC, Mannheim knife attack, anti-Islam activist injured in stabbing. Okay. That's what they tell you, right?
Yeah.
DW, I've already said, right? Sky News, German knife attack. So there you go. Knives, of their own volition, knives are just going around stabbing people. Just knives, doing it on their own. Germany, knife attack. Man shot after stabbing police officer in frenzied attack. Euronews, far-right activist. Incredible, isn't it? Far-right activist and others hurt in stabbing in Mannheim. So nothing about the stabber, CBS News. Video shows anti-Islam activist among those stabbed in Germany and whatever else. So, there you go. We don't get really anything about the perpetrator of the crime. And that's common now. That's par for the course. Sorry, Brizer?
I don't think we will either.
No, I don't think so. As you said, we will probably never find out who that person is. I think in Germany they'll just give you a name like Khalid W or something like that, and it's just a making up name. And as you said,
it's like that knife attack in Dublin back in November. It's Algerian guy. All we know about him is he's Algerian, and I think he lived here for a while, but. And then after that, we heard absolutely nothing more about the guy at all. Where's he gone now? But you would think for something like that he'd be in prison or there'd be a big court case over it. I haven't heard a thing.
It was the same, good few years back now when that guy, I think he travelled from Britain across to the northeast of Ireland, and he entered the 26 counties, and he killed a Japanese guy, wasn't it? He killed a Japanese guy, and he injured two Irish people. We had a name, but we were never told exactly where he came from. There were murmurings that he might have been from Egypt, but we never really heard. And then, I think he was sent. They just sent him to the nut house. I don't think he went to prison. I think they just sent him to the nut house. So, yeah, there's a lot of that. All right, Brizer, I'm going to end it here. Thanks very much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
As Brizer said, you just don't know. Obviously, there's going to be a backlash to this mass immigration. People will start gathering and trying to exchange information, and you will probably get these individuals turning up. Maybe they're doing it for themselves. Maybe they're state operatives. We just don't know. And, it's very difficult to get to the bottom of these events. But as Brizer said, they're probably going to become more common in the next few years. So
just be cautious in large gatherings is what I would say. Just be cautious.
Yeah, I second that. Brizer, thanks very much.
Okay, Patrick, take care now. Right.